it's a felony to lie under oath. It's also a felony to mislead Congress if you're not actually lying, if the impression you're creating is erroneous. Does he believe what he's saying?
Well, first of all, Judge, how frequently have we brought anyone in and held them accountable for having lied to Congress?
The last person prosecuted for lying to Congress was the New York Yankee pitcher Roger Clemens, who supposedly lied about the content of his urine. The first trial was a mistrial. The second trial was an acquittal. Mm-hmm. It doesn't prosecute its own. We know that.
Yeah, well, if you're not going to prosecute, there's no accountability. Where there's no accountability, there's no performance. I don't think any of these general officers are worried in the least about being brought back and asked hard questions in the future when everything falls apart. So that's the first thing. Secondly, many of these people convince themselves over time that they have a duty to lie. It's my duty to go in there and support the president and his policies. No, it's not. That's wrong. But that's what they have convinced themselves.
But they, in this case, he, is betraying the soldier, the lieutenant, the junior captain, the people who have a real feel for what's going on, whether they're Americans or not.
Well, this is absolutely true. This was true in Vietnam. It was true during World War II, particularly for the German generals who, after the war, were asked how they could possibly have continued to do what they did and lie the way they did. They were ultimately held accountable, not all of them, but large numbers of them, fortunately. But there's no sense right now in the officer corps that if you're a 3 or a 4-star, that you have an obligation to tell the truth that might be embarrassing to your superiors, whether they're 4-star superiors or political appointees or the President of the United States himself.
Here's an interrogation before the same committee just a few minutes after the one we showed you. I don't align, I don't think you do, with the ideology of the interrogator one bit. It's Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, who's a Lindsey Graham acolyte and loves war. However, he does accuse Secretary Austin of lying. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not about Ukraine. It's about the notification of the military action in Syria. But watch the back and forth between them and tell me if a rational person could conclude that Secretary Austin is being truthful.
To the issue of the strikes in Syria last week and Senator Wicker's line of questioning about the timing of notification to Congress. You said that you, quote, should have notified Congress earlier. These attacks happened against our troops, killing one contractor early in the morning Eastern time. Do you believe that you should have notified us that morning while we were voting on amendments directly related to this kind of attack?
There is no connection between when we notified you, Senator, and your vote. The chairman and I were testifying that morning as well. So as soon as we came out of testimony, we began work on crafting response options.
Secretary Austin, I don't believe you. I believe that your office specifically withheld notification of this deadly strike against Americans because the Rubio Amendment, on which we voted midday, directly touched on exactly this scenario. Not repealing these use of force resolutions if the president couldn't certify that Iran was no longer attacking us in Iran and Syria. That's what I believe. Nothing you can say is going to change my belief about that. And I got to say, I think I speak for about a lot of my
colleagues. I just want to say, Senator, that is absolutely not true.
Maybe you didn't personally do it. But I believe entirely that people in your office did that. You have a vast legislative operation, as Senator Wicker pointed out. Do you really expect us to believe that they didn't know that we were voting on a Rubio amendment that directly covered exactly this kind of attack? I don't believe that. I believe there's a conscious decision made not to inform Congress because you fear that it might lead to the passage of the Rubio amendment, which would kill the entire bill.
Does Secretary Austin have a reputation in the military community for being truthful?
You know, I would like to say that in most cases, general officers are not thought of as